how do you think the HEC MBA is impacting your capabilities to do whatever you want to do in terms of your pre-MBA career? And what are the key things that you're learning right now? What do you think are the most important things that the MBA is bringing to uh, your skill set?
Okay, so in terms of career, in terms of what I was thinking earlier and what I think about it now, I'm still very much convinced about consulting. I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people. I've had the chance to crack cases with a lot of people, and I think I know where I stand. I think I know what I need to improve on just from the pure perspective of getting recruited into consulting. Apart from that, I've had the exposure to a lot of other industries. I had no clue earlier what corporate finance was all about. I had no clue how any of the money worked, what life was beyond digital transformation or technology. And I think that's one of the key learnings here, to get exposed to so many things beyond what I already did. I knew something like operations used to exist, but within it, there are so many things to do. There are so many optimizations within operations. There are so many things to specialize in within operations that I can start a job within operations and I would like it. I had no clue earlier that if it existed or not, or if I would like it or not. But I have had the chance to work on a project for a company. I've had the chance to compete in games, simulations like the capstone simulation, or simulations where you just need to run a company and make sure that you earn the most money, and all the schools across the world are competing, and I came 10th across 100 people, so that was really exciting. And these are the things that you start learning within the MBA, that life exists beyond what you already knew. I was talking about private equity earlier, and my professor in one of the classes told us how he was going to raise $14 billion in the next week. This was during COVID, and we were doing an online class. Oliver Gottschall is our professor, and he founded a company that advises private equity firms called Perax. So he was teaching us private equity. He was telling us what's happening in the market, and this guy is going to raise a fund in the next week. So that kind of an exposure, the kinds of things that he taught me in private equity class, I don't think that would have happened in another private equity class from that we could have read off a book. Another example I would like to give from a professor was Jeremy Case. He is an advisor to the government in some capacity. He appears on TV channels to give economic advice, on economics. And he taught me the same economics course that I've taken probably 3 times in my life earlier, once in engineering, once during an internship as well. But the same demand supply curves were taught to me in such a different way that I had there was no connection between the 2 different economics courses that I had taken of the same subject. From the same book, I could have asked the exam. But when the professor taught it to me, I really understood how he has a very famous case study on Amazon, and he taught most of his course relating to Amazon and other case studies that we did. But now I know Amazon so well that when I interviewed for Amazon, I could directly bring out those teachings from class. I was telling Amazon that this is how it relates to economics, and that is why the company behaves the way it does, or why competition works the way it does. I know what game theory looks like on paper, but when I was taught game theory, I was given 4 real players in the world and how they were competing and how price wars or whatever works and how innovation is being pushed because of all this competition. So these are really amazing things that were that made so much value because I experienced them in person. And I think I'm coming on to another question that of yours now, that about the MBA advice, that the in-person thing really matters a lot. I would not suggest anyone to go for a course that is not starting in person in September. If that's happening, you should have the chance to defer it. And I think that's a very practical thing that we have at HEC as well. If I think that my experience is being impacted so much that I don't think it's worthy anymore, then I have the option to defer it. And I have not thought of having the conversation with such a drastic conversation with administration right now, but I have no objection. I'm not scared that they'll say no. I don't think that they'll say no, even if I want to say that I want to stop all my classes right now and I'll start back in January when the next batch starts. Or I will start back in next May when the next September intake starts. I don't think admin or anyone within the school will have an issue with me saying so or in implementing that for me. So I'm not very sure why you told me that other schools are not willing to do so, because this is beyond anyone's control, and they're helping us out as much as they can.
Are you not have an option while you're studying it to defer it to next week? Why are you not exercising it? Would that not help you when you're recruiting and everything?
What would I do in that next 1 year? I think it's better that I come. See, this is the worst of COVID that we're going to experience right now, from whatever information that we have, right? I want to get over this hump while I have something else to do, while I have the MBA to complete. I think the break in the flow will not will be very detrimental. I'm using so much of what I learned during the core in my elective term, and I've chosen to specialize in strategy, and I'm going to use all of these subjects in that as well. I don't think the 1 year. I think the 1 year break will cause this flow to break, and I think it'll be less effective. And the second thing is, after I graduate, whatever the situation is, I would like to leverage this academic part of it to perform better then. I think I cannot perform as well right now if I go do a job than I will in January when I complete my course. And that has been true through every part of the MBA. I knew that back in September, when I had the chance to apply to Deloitte, to the Amsterdam office, I did not, because I knew that in that month, I was not going to interview as well as I can right now. And this is when I will apply to Deloitte. Now, I don't know if the opening is going to be there anymore, but this is now when I'm more confident to crack that interview. And I had that wisdom back then because the school had made me aware of it. And a lot of people did interview and a lot of people did get through, but that was not my time. And I think that is how I realized that the more I finish the MBA, the more I get to the end, the wiser I am. And that's when I know what to talk about during an interview and what not to talk about during an interview and what the job is going to be about. So at that point, I might have applied for some jobs that I would not want to do right now because I know so much more about them. I do not want to see my career going that way. And I still, even though situations is not conducive to making such choices, I can still choose to not apply to some jobs because I know that I'm not going to perform well or I'll not like them.
I know that you had been applying for 2 long years before you and I met.
Yeah. Yes.
And you and I worked together for 5 months on the application, 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Top admits, Duke and HEC. I personally want to ask, and I think a lot of people would also want to know, what do you think were the main areas that led to 2 consecutive years of not anything happening and then 2 massive top schools? What do you think were the main areas that changed everything?
I think the first was I realized that I'm not supposed to kid anyone. I'm not supposed to deceive anyone through an application. That I needed to be very true, and those things within themselves were good enough. I think that was also something that I was very low on confidence when I started applying, but that my stories also carried weight, that my stories were actually worthy of getting an admit, so that I do not need to make stories up, was something that I realized first as soon as I started. I don't know why. Maybe because of the questionnaire that he sent me, maybe because I tried to answer it as truthfully as I could, but it happened. Then the other point was talking to people. I would not have done it had you not pushed me, had you not shouted at me at one point. But I reached out to people, and once I started doing it, it actually turned out so well that I started enjoying those conversations. I used to come back from office and have appointments midnight or at 1 o'clock at night. And I used to be up and talk to people, and I started really seeing myself in their shoes. If someone asked me something about my school, what would I want to tell them? And when I see those answers coming out from a school repeatedly, then I really associate with that school. So this happens only when you talk to people. The answers that others get from these people are not your answers. So you yourself need to do it. You cannot Google those up. Even if they are out there, they are not your answers. So you have to talk to people. And thirdly, I think the essays and again the stories within themselves, because now I had so much information about the schools, now because I had thought about my own experiences in such depth and with such honesty, that I could connect the experience in the school with my experience in office or whatever I was doing before that, and then see how these things can, how my experience can be in the school. And that is what came out in the essays, in addition to what I wanted to do after the MBA, in addition to where I saw my career going, or just even when you want to include a name of a professor in your application, what you would do is see the professor's profile on LinkedIn, or see what they do at the school or the subjects that they teach. Instead of that, try to watch a webinar. There are a lot of webinars happening these days. So just watch a webinar, listen to the professor for 10 minutes, and then you'll know if you want to write about this professor in your application or not. Some people would like to talk about a statistics professor. Some people would like to talk about an operations professor because they liked whatever they had to say. So there are a lot of channels to know about people from beyond what we think they are, beyond LinkedIn, beyond the school's website. Even on the school's website, there would be so many videos and links to the webinars that these people are having. So invest that time, and investing that time, now that I think about it, had I done that, that would have added more value. But anyway, whatever I did was just think very, very honestly, talk to the people and connect those things to make sure that my essays sound very, or are very genuine. They did not sound genuine, they were genuine. And all the way, Jatin was there to help me, to correct me whenever I went wrong. And I did go wrong a lot. And thank you for keeping me there, keeping me online.
I heard one thing that shouted at you, and I'm sorry for that.
No way. That actually worked. And you were very clear how our relationship was going to be as long as we were working together. And I accepted those terms, and I knew what was coming. So it was absolutely fine. I have no regrets or nothing negative about it. I was very happy that you shouted at me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.